Hey guys, Will here with Bettor Analysis. Thanks so much for tuning in to my second video with Bettor Analysis, where I'll be breaking down the New York Jets. We'll be traveling to Buffalo to take on the Bills for Week 1. A reminder here at Bettor Analysis, I provide you a detailed insight on every matchup for the NFL season this year. And unlike other betting platforms that give picks or they tout their models, I break down specific matchups on both sides of the ball, where I use relevant historical data and trends that will enable you to make a more informed betting decision. So please subscribe below and make better bets with Bettor Analysis this season. So the Bills are favored across most books at 6.5 points. These two teams faced off twice last year, once in Week 1, where the Bills won 17-16. And like most years, the Jets were a highly anticipated team that took a commanding lead against the Bills before blowing it and losing 17-16. A true microcosm of the Jets' disappointing season last year, where they finished 7-9. And these two teams faced off in Week 17, where the Bills rested their starters in preparation for the playoffs. And the Jets won by a touchdown in that game. But really not a great game to use for historical references here. So we'll only be looking at the Week 1. And then over-under total sitting at about 39.5 points across most books, well below the two totals last year of 33 points in Week 1 and then 19 points in Week 17. So Vegas is predicting about a 23-17 finish. So next segment, I'll be going into the offseason roster moves, notable moves. Looking at the Bills first, they made headlines this year acquiring wide receiver Stefon Diggs from the Vikings. Diggs coming off a career year in which he averaged 18 yards of reception, totaling 1,200 yards receiving. So he'll definitely be a nice addition to John Brown and Cole Beasley. And then looking at Josh Norman, he came over, cornerback from the Washington football team. He had a disappointing year last year, only one interception, and he gave up 8 touchdowns. One of the worst performances of Norman's career last year. He let up a QB rating of 133. And he had one of his worst games against Sam Darnold and the Jets, letting up 2 touchdowns. Then moving on to the notable roster moves for the Jets, they acquire wide receiver Brashad Perriman from the Bucks. So as you can see in the graphic, last year's game log, Perriman averaged 100 yards receiving in his last 5 games of the year. So the caveat is he was playing in Tampa Bay with the league's best wide receivers, where he experienced a much more favorable matchup than he will for New York's weak receiving core. He's definitely going to be getting a lot more attention from defenses, especially this very strong Buffalo Bills secondary. And then Frank Gore, a good, reliable veteran running back entering his 15th year. I'm not really sure how much explosiveness he has left in the tank. He averaged only 3.5 yards a carry last year. His one strong suit is he doesn't cough up the ball. Literally in 170 carries last year, he didn't have one fumble. So between him and Le'Veon Bell, very sure-handed running backs. Don't expect too many turnovers. And then the Jets lose Robbie Anderson. He led the team last year with Crowder, totaling 800 yards receiving through the year. So a team that's really struggled offensively through the air definitely will miss Robbie Anderson. Moving into the next segment, into the trenches, where I'll tell you which matchups are advantageous and where I think there's value. So again, I credit Pro Football Focus providing the graphics here, which we'll be analyzing. So Sam Darnold, back under center for the Jets, his 3rd year in the NFL. Last year against Buffalo, he received a lot of pressure in the pocket, got sacked 6 times, and had 6 of his passes batted down at the line. This offensive line sees a lot of new faces, slight facelift from last season, most notably Becton, first-round draft pick out of Louisville. It was the largest tackle selected in the draft class. The scouting report notes his production isn't great, allowing 8 total pressures across 73 true passing sets. And he'll be facing off against a top-rated pass rusher in Jerry Hughes. Jerry Hughes had 7 sacks last year, 1 against the Jets in Week 1. He also had 40 hurries last year. So if the scouting report holds true for this matchup, Darnold will definitely be feeling severe pressure coming from his blind side. And then on the other side of the line, you have Trent Murphy, another defensive end who's had really good success against the Jets last year. He had 2 sacks and 7 hurries. Based on this analysis, this bodes very well for the Bills' defense. Like most quarterbacks, he struggles under pressure, but he's one of the worst quarterbacks under pressure last year with a 58 quarterback rating. So this bodes well for the Bills defense. The Bills defense, their secondary is among the best in the league last year, and they've added even more depth with Josh Norman. So even though his skill levels dropped off, he's still very dangerous as a 3rd or 4th cornerback in the secondary. Buffalo led up the 4th fewest passing yards last year, and the Jets were at the bottom of the league for passing offense. And on top of that, they lost one of their top receivers in Robbie Anderson. So the Jets, they're rushing second to last in the league last year. Le'Veon Bell, disappointing year, averaged only 3.4 yards a carry. And then they bring in Frank Gore, another veteran running back, neither of which will have much success with this weak offensive line and lack of threat through the air. So matching that up with a really strong Bills defense, not looking good for the Jets on offense. Next, we'll look at the Buffalo Bills offense. So they're bringing back a very similar looking offense. A team last year that really focused on rushing the ball with a lot of success. They made a monster move to bulk up their receiving core with the addition of Stephon Diggs. This will surely help Josh Allen after last year finishing at the bottom of the league for passing. Even in Week 1 against the Jets, Allen threw 2 picks, neither of which were under pressure or, in my opinion, his fault. Their passes his receivers should have had. And then when we look at, in the backfield, the Bills, Devin Singletary's back. Last year he earned a more consistent role in the rushing attack after he rushed for 70 yards in Week 1 against the Jets, and that was on only 4 carries. Steve McClendon will make it very difficult for Singletary to repeat that type of performance. He's one of the best run-stopping linemen in the league. And the one bright spot of this Jets defense is last year they stopped the run, ranked 2nd in the league with the fewest rushing yards allowed. So even as bad as the PFF ratings on the offensive line here may indicate, 4 of the 5 linemen are returning from last year. The Bills have ranked in the top 10 for rushing. Honestly, I think the PFF ratings are factoring in the amount of times Allen was under pressure last year, which, in my opinion, isn't completely fair, since Allen had a tendency to hold on to the ball a few seconds longer than most quarterbacks. I don't think you'll see that same problem this year with all the weapons Allen has at his disposal this year. So, and then on the defensive side of the ball, you have cornerback Austin for the Jets. He's got a 71-point PFF rating. Generous in my opinion, but I think it's mostly due to the fact he played in 7 games last year where they faced off against some of the worst offenses. So the one challenging matchup he had, which was against the Steelers, he let up 5 receptions on 5 attempts, which included a touchdown. So a recap, Vegas pricing in a 6.5 point favorite for the Bills. Vegas thinks the Bills are substantially better than the Jets team that almost beat them last year in Week 1. I agree. The Bills are better. They've maintained their core secondary. They improved their passing game that really struggled last year by adding Diggs to complement Beasley and Brown. The one thing I feel like Vegas may not be pricing in is the softness up front for the Bills' offensive line. Last year against the Jets, Allen proved to be successful under pressure, but he's still a young quarterback that's likely to make mistakes. He has a habit of coughing up the ball, and this Jets defensive line is too good. They're very strong up front. They'll make this game much closer than what Vegas is pricing in. If you look at the skill players between both teams, sure, the Bills have the advantage, but I think the Jets win the matchups in the trenches, keep this game close. The over-under sitting at 40 points, significantly higher than the 33 points we saw from Week 1 last year. Vegas is pricing in the addition of Diggs. That'll open up the passing offense for the Bills, as well as two young quarterbacks, adding one more year of experience under their belt. I disagree with this assessment by Vegas. I think the Jets losing Robbie Anderson really closes the window of opportunity for them to put up points quick through the air. Both teams retain talent on defense that ranked them in the top of the league last year, and they'll be facing off against two really weak offensive lines where their quarterbacks have really struggled under pressure. So I don't see them putting out more than 40 points here. But at Bettor Analysis, I'm not here to give you picks. Rather, I give you analysis and help you make better, more informed decisions. So I hope that the information and analysis that I was able to provide you helps you make better decisions and better bets. And if it did, please subscribe below and make better bets with Bettor Analysis this season.